Curious to see how far your budget could go in Portugal? In this video, we're sharing our expenses for a month in the Algarve region, and we've broken this into 10 key categories. Specifically, we spent the whole month staying in Portimao, Portugal.
We're Dharmesh and Karen from KD Travel Warriors, slow traveling the world for the last year. Wondering what a month in Portugal might cost? Well, stick around and see how we managed to spend our money.
All right, let's get started by first clarifying that our monthly budget is around $2,800 US, which translates to about 4,000 Canadian dollars.
Correct. Yeah. And also, during the video, we'll be saying all pricing and costs in US dollars, but for our fellow Canadians, at the bottom of the screen, we will have it converted for Canadian dollars so you can see.
So, Dom, what's our first category?
Our first category is accommodations. We stayed 31 nights in Portimao, Portugal, which cost us $1,108.74 in total. That was for a location that was not right at the beach. It was about an 18-minute walk from the beach.
Right. But we chose a place that was centrally located because we wanted to be close to shopping. We've also got public transportation at our doorstep, and the train station's just a few minutes away from us as well. And if you wanted to get to the center of town, we're sort of midway, so we can get both to the beach and the center of town in equal time.
In equal time, yeah. Definitely. And if you're looking for more details about the accommodation, check out our video on Portimao, which will have a link down below for you to see.
Okay, moving on to our next categories, which is groceries.
Groceries. All right, for groceries, we had 14 trips to the grocery store for the month. That ended up costing us $365. So not bad overall, 14 trips for the entire month.
Yeah, and we ended up cooking at home most of the time that we've been here. And it's been good because we have a fully functional kitchen. And the fact that the grocery store is a 5-minute walk away from us was easy. As a matter of fact, we actually have 3 grocery stores near us.
Yeah, and actually one of those grocery stores we found was sort of by surprise. It's called the Food Co, and it actually carries British UK products. So for us being on the road and being on the other side of the road in Southeast Asia for so long, it was nice to find some comfort foods and some stuff that was a little bit more familiar to us.
Right.
So definitely appreciated that. But even in saying that, there was also a fresh local market that's nearby. We recommend you go there. There was great produce. There's good variety, and pricing's really reasonable there as well.
They have a huge butcher shop as well as a fishmonger. And I think the first time we went there, that's where I got cheese, remember?
That's
correct, I got a good
yeah.
selection of cheese and wine and different goodies. So definitely check out the fresh fruit market in the area. Let's move on to our next category, which we all know that Dharma enjoys, which is dining out.
Dining out, yes. Dining out. Karen does a lot of the cooking at home. I do a lot of the eating out. So,
right.
But for dining out, we've got it broken into 2 categories. But first of all, the overall cost. It cost us $184 for the entire month. So we didn't do a lot of eating out this month. It was just we were just eating at home more with the groceries. So we had 2 times where we went out and had snacks or coffees. So that's just if we go to a cafe or something like that, grab something small and quick, which was only about $12. And then for the actual meals where we're sitting down and eating or anything like that, like a full meal, was 7 times. Which is low. I mean, for the entire month, only eating 7 meals out was really good, and that was $172 as well. Yeah.
And 2 of those instances were when we went and did our day trips. So along the Algarve region, there's good train system that connects all of the towns and cities. So we ended up going out to Faro for one of our day visits, and then we went to Lagos for the second day visit. So we did eat out on those 2 days.
Yeah. We were kind of basically almost forced to really eat out because we were we were away. I mean, they were both a train ride away. So so not a problem.
And then we also had meals closer to the beach as well, which normally we would try to avoid, right?
Yeah. And once again, I mean, compared to our last month, we know that we spent a lot more on meals out. We did about 20 meals out last month. They were shorter. We had friends visiting. You can check out our video for our month expenditures from the previous. There'll be a link down below as well where you can check that out.
So let's move on to our next category, which is personal care. What does that comprise of?
Sure. Personal care now, it comprises, we have, in this month at least, we've only got 2 different categories,
Yeah.
Which is clothing and cosmetic, makeup, kind of personal care, that aspect. I'll break it out individually. The clothing, we ended up spending $20. And then for the cosmetic beauty side of things, it was around $44. So which totals to $65. Not bad for the month. You know, like I said, a lot of things don't cost too much in the area, so it's been fairly reasonable. The clothing item was, do you remember what that was?
Oh, I needed to replace a set of pajamas.
Oh, okay, so that's
I guess the nice thing with us being on the road and traveling is we're limited in how much we can carry, so we really can't purchase a lot of things. So
No.
it keeps our costs down as well.
Well, this
Right?
category is more geared towards Kieran. I mean, on a monthly basis.
Yeah.
The cosmetic side, there was just a little bit of creams and things like that, and then she also got her nails done. So that's a cost that usually pops up every 5 weeks, roughly, I'd say.
Once a month.
Once a month, yeah.
Right.
So that was only, her nails were only $18, so it's not nothing crazy out here.
Yeah. So let's move on to our next category, which is extremely important, and that's health insurance.
Health insurance, yes.
Right.
So health insurance is one of those costs that we have every month. It's one of those costs that are, I would say that you can't live without when you're on the road. I wouldn't recommend it at all. Our total for our month was $214. Now ours fluctuates slightly because the coverage that we have is just for emergency medical situations, and it's actually charged to us in euros. So depending on the exchange rate, it fluctuates slightly, but on average, it's somewhere around that $214 range.
And then any other medical costs in addition to this, we'll talk about that next. So our next category is going to be medical care.
So for medical care, we had actually 2 appointments this month, and that's unusual. We normally don't. There have been months we go without any medical appointments at all. So, knock on wood, we've been fairly healthy. So for this month, we did have 2 medical appointments, and for the total, it was $164, but that included both visits to the walk-in and medication for both of us. The appointments, I mean, how would you say your appointment went?
Oh, it was amazing. It unfortunately happened when we were out in Faro.
That's right, yeah.
I needed to go to the walk-in, and from the time that I had my symptoms to walking out of the clinic, it was all addressed within an hour.
Yeah, it was very efficient.
We had to look for a walk-in clinic that would take me, and got an appointment, and that was on a weekend. We walked in, got looked after, got a prescription, all in less than an hour. Let's move on to our next category, which is entertainment.
All right, so for entertainment, this category is a combination of if we were going to the movies, if we go out for a show, attractions, museums, any of those entry fees, any of those kind of tour kind of items that we do. And this month we did have a couple, which was the totaled up to be $14. So nothing crazy, but that was on one of our day trips.
Yeah. When we went to Faro, we ended up visiting a couple of cathedrals. And then if you're looking into going to Faro, one of the popular areas to go to is the cathedral that also houses the Chapel of Bones.
Yes, the Chapel of Bones.
So it was the entrance for both of those cathedrals and the Chapel of Bones that we paid for.
Yeah, definitely worth it. You'll see there's lots of skulls in both. They call it the Chapel of Bones, but definitely worth it.
Okay, moving on to the next category, which is transportation.
All right, for transportation, the total for the month was $55.81. Now, that comprised of 2 train trips and 5 Uber trips. So the 2 train trips were $36.28, and the Uber was $19.53. For a little bit more detail, I guess, the trains, we had taken 2 day trips. The cost for Faro, from Portimao to Faro, was $27 round trip, and for Lagos was $9 round trip. So not very expensive, very economical to go to city.
Yeah.
The Ubers were $4 per trip average if you want to work it down.
Yeah. So not very much at all for transportation.
No.
Right. Okay. We're going to move on to the next category, which is miscellaneous.
Okay. For miscellaneous, we had a grand total of $44.84. Miscellaneous, and this time we didn't have a lot. There were 2 categories at least, if you want to say. We have our financial fees that we do, which were $11.69, and then miscellaneous items, which were $33.15.
Perfect. And then I think the miscellaneous items we just needed, that was for the dryer. As we mentioned previously, the washers. We have a washer in the condo, but we don't have a dryer, so we sometimes will take it to the local laundromat. And then we needed to get some tech gear. So very small fees.
Very small fees.
Yeah. All right. So that brings us to our last category, which is recurring.
Correct.
Yeah.
So for our recurring total, it was $163.97 for the entire month, with a couple of different or 3 different categories in there this month. So we have the cell phone, which cost us $75.17. Our subscriptions media items were $14.73. And our life insurance, which was $74.07.
And I think for the cell phone, we were a little higher this month because we usually pay a fee once a year to port our Canadian telephone number. So that we ended up paying around 28 US dollars to port the number. So it was up for renewal. That's why our fee was a bit higher this
Correct,
month.
yeah.
And then for a cell phone, we don't both get a SIM card. Dom has a local SIM card with unlimited data, so part of the fees is for that.
Yeah. So what we do is when we started off our travels, we used to get both our phones, SIM cards for both our phones. Then we realized that we're together most of the time, pretty much all of the time. So we don't require that. So we decreased that down to 1 SIM card, and then Kieran will just borrow the data from me. So no problems there. Beyond that, there's not much else to say. Life insurance, we keep for ongoing years, just as precaution, and our media subscriptions are just for our streaming, so we can watch some of our shows back home.
Yeah, and also some of the storage that we need because we can't carry a lot of storage devices. So that's quite a few different categories that we've gone through. So let's give them a grand total for the month.
All right. So for the final total, it was $2,381.63, which was actually under budget by $425.97. So we are actually under budget by about 15%. So that's pretty good for the month. I wouldn't complain.
That's pretty good for being in Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's impressive. Keep in mind, we did mention that we had medical expenses this month. If we didn't have medical expenses, we would have been even lower at $2,200 and roughly $18.
That's correct. Yeah.
So one of the ways that we try to stay on budget or stay within budget is to use various different tips when we're traveling. Dom, why don't we go ahead and share some of those tips? Perhaps you'll be able to use some of these when you're traveling as well.
Yeah. So some of the knowledge or the tips or experiences we've learned. First of all, when we do our bookings, we try to do longer stays. So if we can, we look at doing at least a month in a location, 4 weeks at a time in a location, if not more. And by doing that, we're able to get actually bigger discounts. So when you're looking at such places like Airbnb and things like that, when you start getting into those 28 plus days, they give you a bit more discount. So it kind of helps out overall.
Oh, also for people that don't travel for a month at a time, we travel a month at a time in different places. You can also get discounts if you're staying for 1 week as well as 2 weeks.
As well as 2 weeks, yeah. And the other aspect of it is that you can also look at websites and other platforms such as Booking.com or anything like that, where if you do multiple bookings, they'll give you more discounts. So that's another option there. But the other way that we also look at to trying to bring our costs and things down is, of course, is considering when we do look at those places to stay, because we're staying longer terms, we look for those kitchens, right? We look for a place that we can cook at home, which is healthier, because Karen's always concerned about my health, so she wants me to stick around. So eating in and being able to sort of do that also helps with the budget overall. I think the other one that you would say would be probably restaurants and things.
Right. We try to eat away from more touristy spots. So if you are in a busy city, like say Lisbon or Porto or other parts, right? Like we're just naming some of the biggest cities. If you try to eat 1 or 2 blocks away from the main touristy area, you're going to find two things. One, the food will probably be better, and the prices are going to be a lot lower. So those are some of our tips on how we can stay on budget, and hopefully you'll be able to implement some of them as well. All right, that's our full breakdown of what it costs to live in Portimao for 1 full month. We would love to hear from you. Do you think Portugal could fit your budget? If you have any other tips on how to keep costs lower, please share them in the comments below. We would certainly find them to be helpful, and I'm sure some of our viewers would be able to find them helpful as well. Hopefully, we've inspired you to visit Portugal. Don't forget to hit subscribe, like, and the notification bell so you won't miss our upcoming video where we're going to be discussing our expenses for a full year of travel. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, let's travel together.